Hi everyone. This past year began on a very difficult note, and nothing seemed to improve for a long while afterwards. In a sense, matters just deteriorated all year long. And in the recent few weeks, it feels like the tide has turned and we're seeing amazing miracles, like something's changed. And throughout this past year, people asked me, and honestly, I asked myself, exactly are we supposed to do in times like these? Sure, we can support financially, we can stay united, but what can we specifically do in such difficult moments? These days, we don't have prophets telling us, so says the Lord. But I would argue, actually, that God still finds ways to communicate with us. The Baal Shem Tov taught that everything we see or hear is a message for us on how to serve God. It's not a message that needs to come from a spiritual leader or a rabbi. Sometimes that message can even come from just a person that you least expect it to come from. This week, I learned of a new name. Maybe you know who she is. I never knew her before this week. Her name is Patricia Heaton. Apparently, she's pretty famous. She won 2 Emmys. I don't know what an Emmy is, uh, but I know that there's a young woman named Emmy who runs the children's service in our synagogue. But apparently, she's a big deal. This Patricia Heaton. She has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Again, apparently, it's a pretty big deal. She's also a woman of faith who openly attributes all her success to God, which is quite humbling. She's been a supporter of Israel. And I went and I looked her up and I found out a little bit about her background, that she grew up in Ohio, a place called Bay Village, Ohio, which is pretty close to Cleveland. And she's always had a fondness for the Jewish people. She said that she once saw an elderly woman at the gym with numbers tattooed on her arm. And it made her realize how this history of anti Semitism is still very much with us and how important it is to stay vigilant. But on October 7th, like others, something changed. She watched in horror as the terrible images from Israel appeared. And she was certain that people would flood the streets in protest, especially in Tennessee, where most people are big supporters of Israel. She expected to see posters of hostages plastered everywhere and red flags being waved. Something. She expected to see an open outrage. But reality did not match her expectations. She describes it. The fear of being accused of Islamophobia kept too many people silent. Her Hollywood peers, for her, were a special disappointment. Now, she tries to give them the benefit of a doubt, but I've heard from other people in the arts community how difficult it's been, how they've lost their friends groups, how they've lost lifelong friends in the arts community because of this year. I think many actors and people in the arts community, they're deeply emotional, which is exactly what makes them great at what they do. And so they have a hard time separating the tragedy of war from the tough, but I would say necessary steps needed to deal with radical terrorists. But that was a turning point for her. She realized that she had to do something. And she started a new organization called Coalition 7 October, C70 for short. And the goal was rallying support for Israel among non Jews. And this has become her life's mission. And she feels that this is what she says, that she can't just stand by and watch while Israel fights for its survival. And the organization focuses on three main areas. Education. She believes that it's important to explain the full picture of the Jewish-Arab conflict to a wide audience and break the stereotype about Israel. Fundraising for Israel. And number three is media, working to change the media narrative in the US, which often overlooks Israel's side of the story. She's become a regular speaker at pro-Israel events, and she's very confident in her assertion that the current situation isn't just about Israel. I mean, I know that because here in Montreal, I see just today as I was driving how, yeah, there's still Palestinian flags, but now there's Lebanese and Iranian flags. If it was just about Gaza, then it would be a different story. But it is the same age-old Jew hatred that has plagued us for generations. She wears a necklace in the shape of the land of Israel, and she wears a hostage tag. Her basic rule is that when Jews walk in the streets and see symbols of hate or chants like from the river to the sea, it's her duty to show them that they're not alone. And there's so many people. I have a neighbor a couple of days ago that knocked on my door. Not Jewish. They just wanted to say you're not alone. It was beautiful. I told them it was so brave to just knock on a random person's door. But they said they see that we're visible Jews, and they've seen some of the things that are going on in the neighborhood, and they wanted to tell us that we're not alone. And it's amazing because people have differences of opinion when it comes to religion, when it comes to politics. Not everyone has to agree with Israel, but right now, what she argues to anyone who will listen is we have to put those disagreements aside. We have to be united in order to save Israel, which isn't just important for the Jewish people, but as she says, for the safety of the world as a whole. Why am I telling you this? Because just 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, this Patricia Heaton kicked off a campaign called Mezuzah Your Zuzah. It's actually named after a Jewish nonprofit that promotes putting mezuzahs on every Jewish door. And it's interesting about this Mezuzah Your Zuzah because I would say the number one question that I've gotten from people since October 7th is this question: should I take my mezuzah off my front door and put it inside, or should I keep it out? And I always say loud and proud. I mean, look at me. I walk around the streets like this. I can't hide my Judaism, and I don't want to hide my Judaism. But people who have that choice of hiding their Judaism, some people have cowered, and they've taken their mezuzah. They don't want to have their house, as they say, targeted, which I don't believe is true. And she posted a video of herself putting a mezuzah on her door. She's not Jewish. And she encouraged others to do the same, to show solidarity with their Jewish friends, with their Jewish neighbors, and to push back against Jew hatred. And what's amazing is that thanks to her campaign, there have been thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, non-Jews, who have put mezuzahs on their doors. Actually, we at our shul, at our Chabad, we have gotten, I checked 14 calls since this started of people in the neighborhood who are not Jewish who wanted to put mezuzahs on their doors. So generally, people call us to put mezuzahs on their doors all the time. I mean, we put up a mezuzah, and we believe that no Jewish home should be without one. But obviously, this is an interesting conversation about non-Jews putting up mezuzahs on their doors. And so what a lot of organizations have decided, and what we've decided as well, is that what we do if we get a call like this is we offer a non-Jew mezuzah case and encourage them to put some kind of beautiful symbol of unity. They should put a mezuzah. I mean, that's the open, anyway, it's the case, but the real mezuzah is the scroll, not just the case. The case is definitely an identity, but the scroll is the real mezuzah. And if they really want the scroll, then they can buy it. I mean, no one's going to stop anyone from buying the scroll. But really, we often remind them that the mitzvah is only a religious obligation for Jews. So this well-known actress who already wears an Israel necklace, who already wears a tag for the hostages, who already wears a yellow ribbon at every public event, did not request people to wear any of the items, but rather chose to rally people around a mezuzah. I'm fascinated by this. If we're looking for a sign from above of what our role is today, what mitzvah we need to strengthen the protection of the Jewish people and Israel, I think maybe God already sent the message, and there's hundreds of thousands of people who are joining us. When a rabbi tells people to put up a mezuzah, we say, well, of course he's saying that. It's his job to say that. He gets paid to promote Jewish stuff. But when it comes from Hollywood or it becomes a celebrity trend, all of a sudden, people are like, hey, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. I've heard a lot of pushback from this, actually. I've heard that some people don't like the fact that non-Jews are buying mezuzahs. They say it's cultural appropriation. They argue that the mitzvah of mezuzah is given to Jewish people and that non-Jews should find something else. And I really love this idea. And I really think that we need as many allies as possible right now. I mean, if anyone wants to help and support the Jewish people during this difficult time, we should let them, right? And we should encourage them. So I went on a search to find if there's any place in Jewish history where this happened before, where Jews were putting up mezuzahs on their doors and non-Jews were also putting up mezuzahs on their doors as a solidarity. And I did find the story. It's a story that is written in the Talmud, and it's a story of actually the person who wrote the Talmud, the author, the original author of the Mishnah, which was later the Talmud, was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He was the leader of the Jewish people about 2,000 years ago. And one day, the Talmud tells the story that a priceless package arrives at his home, a pearl, a priceless pearl. It was sent by Artaban. Who's Artaban? He's the king of Persia, Iran. What was, right? Iran is what was ancient day Persia. Artaban wanted to develop a relationship with Rabbi Yehuda. And some say it's because Rabbi Yehuda was very close with Antonius, which was the Roman emperor. I'm not sure. So he had sent the most valuable item that his country produced, pearls. Rabbi Yehuda, he himself was fabulously wealthy. Actually, what he did was, instead of using his wealth for himself, he took his wealth and he commissioned the writing of a Talmud. And today we have this amazing magnum opus of Jewish law, an incredible work because of his gift, because of his taking his wealth and using it for that. Now, because he was so wealthy, he was expected to send something valuable in return. So he asked the messenger to wait a few days because he wanted to return something to the emperor. He calls in his scribe and he has him write a mezuzah. And he sends a mezuzah scroll back to the Persian king. Now, when Artaban received it, he was insulted. He sends a message back to Rabbi Yehuda saying, I sent you a pearl of priceless value, and you send me a piece of parchment with some writing on it? What kind of business is this? Rabbi Yehuda responds with, I think, one of the most beautiful answers I've ever heard. He says, oh, Artaban, oh, Emperor of Persia, you sent me something I have to guard with my life. But I sent you something that will guard you even while you sleep. The story continues that not long after, Artaban's daughter fell ill and none of the doctors could cure her. And in his desperation, he remembered the mezuzah that Rabbi Yehuda had sent him, and he placed the mezuzah on the entrance of his home, and his daughter was healed. So, the Code of Jewish Law, Shulchan Aruch, in Yoreh Deah 291:3, I see it right there, says, what do we learn from this? That even a non-Jew can have a mezuzah as long as they respect its holiness and treat it properly. And that's the source. It's not a new idea. 50 years ago, right after the Yom Kippur War, the Rebbe launched a campaign. Israel was experiencing frequent terrorist attacks. And the Rebbe said that people should put up a mezuzah. And it doesn't just protect an individual home. The Rebbe said it has a ripple effect, offering protection to the entire Jewish people, no matter where they are. So I know what some of you are probably thinking. Probably many of you have mezuzahs, more than one, probably. So even if your home is covered, maybe there are doors that you don't know about that don't have one, or maybe not all of your doors have. Maybe even if every one of your doors has a mezuzah, maybe you can buy one as a gift for a family member, for a friend this week. It's a great way to take all this emotional energy from October 7th and to do something with it, to help the Jewish people with it. Help someone you know fulfill this important mitzvah. And my blessing to you is, may God bless us through this mitzvah. May God bless us with peace of mind and body in this new year. And may we all sound sleepily. I meant may we sleep soundly, free from worries. And may it be a year that's filled with joy, with goodness and sweetness. And you know, I always say sweetness. It's not subjective. We all know what sweetness is, and that's why we say Shana Tova Umituka, that it should be a good year and a sweet year, because we all know what sweetness is. And may it be one for every single one of us. And when you do that mitzvah, please, I want you to go to jewishndg.com/OCT7, Oct7, jewishndg.com/Oct7. And we have a beautiful campaign there where we're collecting all of the mitzvahs that we're doing between now and Simchat Torah. And on Simchat Torah, we're going to put a beautiful board up in the synagogue, together with everyone's mitzvahs, all of our collective mitzvahs. So please join this beautiful mitzvah campaign that we're doing. All you have to do is pledge the mitzvah, put it on that site, and may all of our mitzvahs, all of the collective mitzvahs, may they usher in an era of true peace. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.